All right, let's get into assignment number one. This whole entire PD is very, very different. So if you've taken one with me before, you're going to notice some subtle changes. We're going to use, like I mentioned in the welcome video, a lot of the same platforms, but the expectations of what we create is going to be a little bit more teacher centered versus student centered, right? My previous PDs have always been around like the skills that we learn and create during our sessions transfer into some sort of exercise or activity or lesson. Now, this entire PD and why I timed it to happen over the summertime is a really relaxing opportunity for us to get back to our roots as we are all artists here. Um, so don't panic if you had joined this PD and you're like, wait, I'm not an art teacher. Do I not belong here? Of course you do. Everyone is an artist, and you're going to find meaning and purpose with this activity that I believe that you could definitely bring back to your classroom. So the first task is that you've got to go and find your favorite space, right? That's outside, your porch, your balcony, your favorite cafe, you're out on vacation with your family. You are anywhere that you find to be most relaxing. And sometimes that can be just right inside your home because I find my home to be one of my favorite places to be and relax. So once you find your space, whether it's inside or out, you're going to do a series of drawings. I did about 2 pages in a little small travel notebook. Took me about like an hour or two. And you'll see a little further explanation of like why my illustration looks like that and then the tools that I used in a moment. But the first task is to find that space and do a series of little drawings, right? Zoom in, zoom out, right? This could be a place. There could be people there, right? It could be really anything. There's a lot of choice with this, but it's about kind of like that yoga for the brain, exercise and drawing, right? Everyone's an artist in this PD, so there is no judgment or looking at people's abilities. That's not what we do here. It's really about having a really relaxing moment to be an artist. So once you have those completed, you'll notice the kind of like connected thread amongst my drawings. I tend to be very illustrative. I was a printmaker in college and I still do printmaking today. And I tend to do things that look a lot like an illustration and I stylize a lot of my work. So you'll see that probably in my illustrations that I have linked below. But the most important part is that I titled this session for activity one to be a material constraint experience. So that meant that you had very limited supplies. I mentioned in the course description that you didn't need to go out and buy anything for this. I'm sure everyone has a notebook, sketchbook that's half used that you can pull out for this. And I'm sure you have some supplies hanging around that you want to use for this. And if you don't, a pen or a pencil is perfectly fine for this. I think the constraint part is actually what makes this really fun and where the discussion will lead into how this may inspire some classroom work. So another photo that I have linked below are the materials that I used. So I used a pen, a marker, a highlighter, and a pencil. I again like to create that stylized look, so I kind of used all those materials in all of my drawings. But that's completely up to you how you approach it. But once I have that done, whether it's 1 page, 2 pages, or 3 page, do as many as you would like for this, right? Because we're really trying to zen out during this first assignment. Submit it to the Padlet, right? Make sure that you put your name. If you don't have an account, just put it in the comment right below. But then there's a secondary requirement with that. And I'm not asking you to create some sort of resource for your classroom, but more participate in a discussion board around like what uses you could use this for. The material constraint, I think, is important, right? The beginning of the school year, the end of the school year, right? I don't want to take out a lot of stuff like day one, the first week. End of the school year, I'm running out of stuff. So I don't have a lot of stuff to put out. What could I do that could challenge students to create something really unique, but maybe with some really random and limited materials? Like I lock everything up, like nothing else is available. They can't even go get a colored pencil if I only have a marker and a pen out on their tray, right? They have to create something. Maybe it's around a prompt. Maybe that's something you develop. In this discussion board, you're going to see some questions for you to be able to respond to and chat with one another who are all registered in this professional development to come up with really unique and innovative ideas on how to implement that. If you've taken sessions with me before, I've definitely talked a lot about how sketchbooks can be a challenge in a classroom. I've done one around like junk journaling and how fun, and how I've gotten a lot of students engaged with it, but it's very material heavy. Um, some students, if you have a sketchbook quarterly, semester, all year round. Sometimes you have kids that really devote a lot of time to it. And then you have a lot of kids that just don't have the time to devote to it because they need the class time to work on the current assignment and they're in sports after school. There's just lots of other obligations that may get in their way to be able to devote a lot of time to it. So I've always grappled with like, how is the best way to implement sketchbooks? And using this as an opportunity for us to tap into being an artist again, it could maybe refuel on how we would approach sketchbooks in our classroom. So you have those two components to think about when you're doing this. You have as much time as you need, right? This session doesn't end until July 31st, but you can spend this whole week, or if you need next week to kind of get this wrapped up and submitted. I do think it's beneficial to try to stick to the due dates so then you can see what other people are working on and really participate in the conversation. But of course, if you need an extra day or two, please take it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email is linked at the bottom. But I got to tell you, I'm really excited to see what comes out of this first assignment. Good luck, everyone.